Hey guys, what's up? It's Alex here, and today we are here to talk about a topic which I'm sure will have many people on one side or the other. Don't think many people sit on the fence about this topic here today, because we're talking about pay drivers and looking at the 2016 Formula 1 grid. I'm sure there are at least 3 or 4 drivers there. You could say Ericsson, Nasser, maybe Palmer, probably Rio Haryanto. That at least, I'm sure there are more in there as well. There's the ones I can just think off the top of my head, but they're people that you definitely could say are pay drivers only in Formula 1 because they have a bit of substantial funding behind them. But I want to talk about that today, and whether it's actually bad for Formula 1. Now I'm going to obviously play a bit of a devil's advocate in this video, because obviously I have my opinions on pay drivers. Obviously I personally want to see the best drivers in Formula 1 possible, but I need to play devil's advocate to make this video as best as possible. So obviously, pay drivers, what do they bring to Formula 1? Obviously, we can tell by the title that they're named by that they bring a substantial amount of funding to Formula 1, which can help teams. Like, let's think about this logically. When they bring, you could say, 20 million or whatever to a team, if for example, the other driver's only bringing 5 million, it means that you can get, that's 25 million pounds that the 2 drivers are bringing in, and that you can bring in better staff. You can, pay the staff properly, and instead of giving them bad wages, which I'm assuming some teams have done in the past, just give basically their engineers, their mechanics, all of those guys, the hospitality people, all just give them the minimum money possible to just get them through the season. But if you can get as much money from sponsorship as possible, you can give them better, you can get better staff, you can get better equipment and all that sort of stuff. So pay drivers, even though they might not be the best drivers themselves, you can improve the whole team by getting people like that into it. But I'm sure the main reason why teams get in pay drivers is to improve the cars, obviously, and just to run the team, because it's so expensive to run Formula 1 nowadays. It's tough to not have a driver that brings in some sort of backing whatsoever. I mean, we look at the top of Formula 1, maybe they're not the top at the moment, but McLaren, Honda, they used to have sponsors like Santander that Fernando Alonso brought in. Obviously, massive company, bank company from Spain that Alonso brought in. And Jenson Button's got his own little sponsors. Hamilton's got his own sponsors. Rosberg's got his sponsors. Every driver in Formula 1 has, is bringing some sort of money to the team. Obviously, if they were not as good a driver, they might not have those sponsors, but it doesn't really matter in this aspect. They're still bringing money into the team. So every driver you see on the grid here today is bringing in some sort of money into the team. So do we call them all pay drivers, or do we just call the drivers we don't like pay drivers? That's where it gets a little bit tricky, because or do we call drivers that just basically had a rubbish career before Formula 1, then magically get into Formula 1 through money pay drivers? I'm not sure, because look at Pastor Maldonado, for example. I'm going to keep using him as an example, I'm sure, but he won GP2. He had a record amount of wins in one season in GP2 when he got promoted to Formula 1. I mean, if that happened to anyone else, you'd say that was just an excellent season, but the fact that he had a bit of sponsorship behind him means that he's automatically a pay driver. He's not a good driver as well. But obviously we saw in Formula 1 he was a bit erratic with his style. He wasn't exactly the cleanest of the drivers, but going to Formula 1 he had a good reputation on the most part. Obviously there was still a crash here and there, but I thought he had a decent reputation coming into Formula 1 of an extremely fast driver, but had his tendencies to have a moment or two. But he was still a really fast driver. But at the end of the day, would Maldonado have gotten to Formula 1 without his money? Probably not. I think Nico Hülkenberg was looking set to race for Williams in 2011, unless somebody with a big budget came through, and they did, and that was Pastor Maldonado. So in that aspect, it took a driver that was obviously better than Maldonado off the grid and put him into a reserve drive for the 2011 season. But at the end of the day, that 2011 season defined Williams in a way, because Maldonado brought in a substantial amount of money into that team, and pretty much after 2011 season, 2012, 2013 was a bit of a blip, 2014, 2015, Williams have had a really good car. So you could say without Maldonado, Williams would not have been in the position to improve, and well, that's just where they are here today. Williams have gone up the grid, partly thanks to Pastor Maldonado's money. I said it right at the end. But yeah, Maldonado's money actually helped Williams improve their car enough to move up the grid substantially, and now they're battling for like 3rd or 4th in the constructors, whilst Maldonado isn't even in Formula 1. So Yeah, it's tough. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think Formula 1 drivers should just be good? Like, you just have to be a good driver to get into Formula 1? Or do you think that, you know, bringing a bit of money into the team can be helpful for everyone? It can improve the staff's, like, lifestyle, obviously, by giving them a bit more money. Obviously, it improves the car by giving the teams more money. So, what do you guys think? Do you want the best drivers possible, or do you want a slightly less good driver, and obviously one that brings in a bit of money to help out the whole staff? Obviously, I want the staff and everyone to get paid properly. I know there's instances in the past where teams haven't paid staff properly, which is incredibly disrespectful for the people that travel around the world trying to make your team the best possible. But obviously, at the end of the day, we want to see the drivers. That's what we go and watch Formula 1 for. We want to see the drivers, the best drivers possible. And I think this all boils down to Formula 1 just being too expensive. If Formula 1 wasn't so expensive to at that extreme level, I think we could have more and more better drivers in the sport. I mean, if we look back to like the 80s and 90s, maybe even a little bit before that, well, especially before that, you know, you had just the best drivers that were racing in Formula 2, Formula 3, in endurance cars. They just came to Formula 1 if they were good enough. Nowadays, it's tough for anyone that's just good enough to do it. For example, we look at Stoffel Vandoorne, a prime example. He should be in Formula 1 this year, but he's not got enough backing behind him probably to go into like a seat like Manor. I mean, obviously he's sponsored by McLaren, but if he had his own like private backer, I think he'd be racing in Formula 1 this year. But obviously, my sake, I want to see the best drivers in Formula 1, and that isn't the case obviously when Formula 1 is so expensive. But yeah, hopefully you guys have enjoyed the video, something a little bit different. And yeah, thanks for watching, hopefully you enjoyed. It's been Alex, and I'm out here. Bye 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 bye.